sessions they've had in the planning, that's been 3 or less. All right, we call the meeting to order. Again, we are being broadcast by private citizens. This is not a town broadcast. So, and I would suggest tonight that after last night's meeting, we all think before we engage, engage our brains before we engage our mouths. Lots of opinions from last night, and let's make sure we all say that we have any opinions. Did you get anything back from Donna?
Not yet.
Okay. The agenda, I think, is pretty straightforward. We'll be going over action items from last meeting, a couple of comments on the department budgets, and then warrant articles in general terms. There's Don, thank you. And then last night's hearing, a bunch of things as far as that goes. I'm sure that'll be the bulk of our discussion, and any other old business committee reports, new business, and then a few other odds and ends. Nothing major odds and ends. Any comments about the minutes? Not like me. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? As far as I'm concerned, we have a quorum because the committee is down to 12 people right now, so we have half here, and we will move forward as far as that goes. Any issues with that? Okay. Actually, I just saw one thing in the minutes that we should make a note. It says there's a surplus of 192,000. That should probably be about 192,000. We don't. That's what I'm coming up with. It doesn't mean that's the right number.
Okay.
So
I can do that right now.
that's what I'm approximating, but I hear other numbers from people down at the town, so I'm not sure what's right. All right. Action items from the last meeting: the Stonewall dollars from the cemetery care funds. This is a good one. You guys are going to love this. I think you asked why they couldn't spend some of the trust fund.
Her perpetual care money, right?
They can only spend interest on the trust, none of the principal.
So that means that the perpetual care just grows exponentially.
That's how they make
It's lovely.
perpetual.
Yeah, it's unspendable.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Another reason not to get plunked in the ground when I go.
Well, no,
Yeah,
we shall be mowed.
I'd rather be scattered.
Actually, possibly not, because the problem is that they were really sweating it this year, that they had enough funds to pay the people for the interest, because the interest rates are so low. So, but, okay, so that was that one. So I think that one's
Amusing, if nothing else.
Sorry, I couldn't resist after last night and my punching. So anyway, the cemetery wall warrant article, I have asked that they please clarify which wall they're talking about. And I asked, and somebody else asked last night, I do believe to lump the similar warrant articles together as far as that goes. In terms of the Muni Smart reports, I got an email from apparently the training that they had today, which I think I had mentioned in one of my many thousand emails, was a webinar. And what would you comment on it? Training went well. Some of what Jonathan Wiles asked can be done, but will require quite a bit of additional time, making additional budgets and/or reports. A lot of extra work on top of the big current workload and deadlines. So I think at some point someone will need to follow up with her for two things. One, that it's, if it's the case, from our perspective, she's got enough other workloads and deadlines to meet right now, would be my feeling, and how other people feel. And that, we'll talk about it later in the year. Any thoughts on that?
I think before, until the town reports get out, I don't think they have any breathing time.
No.
But I think it should be started ASAP after that, and therefore is going to be training. The hard part is going to be the first, getting it going.
Right.
And after that, it's not going to be much more time, because if that's the one that the selectmen are going to be using anyway, they're going to,
Assuming
it's
that
not going to
you
be a
use it.
second.
You know, the other thing is that by that point in time, there could well be a new select board. And they're also using the app on the phone that they get reports out of as well. So how they're going to want to go forward at this point, I don't know. But since you're the only one from that committee is here, can I ask you to follow up with Kelly and tell her that, and I would put it in and call her and confirm it with an email if I were you.
Okay.
Or maybe copy Joel or something, but let him know that from our perspective, we certainly feel it can wait until you have the decision of the select board, I would say. That fair?
I don't know what else we can do.
In terms of department budget status, I think you probably all got the emails over the weekend that I copied you on, and that there was a meeting Friday. No, I can't keep track of it. There was one Friday,
And when is
and then there was one yesterday morning, not today. The one today never happened, not that I'm aware of. Okay. And the one yesterday was a little bit of a concern to me because it was mentioned to me because of some back and forth about the numbers with budgets being cut. Kim was very upset. You know, they did not call department heads back in for those second meetings, which was obviously a point of contention last night. The way that meeting was posted, because I finally just said screw it and came down here yesterday morning, because nobody responded to my emails to find out that it had been posted as being a public meeting. They posted it on the front glass or the front door like they normally do. Nothing went to the calendar or the web page. And what concerns me was that it wasn't an oversight. It was done deliberately so that it would be very minimal attendance at the meeting. And I don't know that's a fact. That's speculation entirely on my part, but that concerns me.
Why do I think that perhaps you're spot on there? Am I too cynical?
So, and that's very much a concern right now is communication in terms of Kim did come in yesterday morning because he was aware of the fact that there was a budget meeting, and we did get some money put back into the forest fire budget, but there was no money put back into the fire department budget. And from my perspective, I can see where the selectmen were coming from, but I'm not. I'm on the fence as to whether or not. And this, again, my opinion, as to whether or not it was because there were line items that really were underspent quite a bit over the last couple of years, or because if people had tunnel vision and just felt as the fire department, we're going to cut them. And that's that. And I think people are forgetting in general, one thing in particular that we all need to keep in mind is what we're here doing is for the taxpayers, okay? And I hope everyone has that in mind in terms of the select board and you know, the people that are listening to what we have to say, that we're doing this for the taxpayers, certainly not for our own well-being and mental health. The other concern I had was the fact that it just seemed like some of the other budgets that had zero line items that hadn't been sent, there was a desire to skip over them, and I had to remind people that that wasn't the case, that, you know, we needed to, you look at one, you look at all of them in terms of the line items. So it seemed to me that there may have been some people that had blinders on, and communication is definitely an issue here. So that's my concern as we're going forward, and we'll say that in public if somebody asks me. So keep in mind with this budget, it's lean. I don't think it's going to get much leaner. It's up by 2.55%. I will pass out my summary. There's a couple of changes that just Kelly sent me late in the day. There were only a few copies, so I'm not sure who's got copies of the latest one she put out. And I'll go over quickly what changed from that.
Is this a changeover? It's not a changeover last night, right?
It is a change over last night.
Oh, it is.
You bet. If you have the one from last night, you can mark it up. If you don't have the new one, it's not a big deal. Oh, it should turn my lock off of last week. Basically what they did under executive, the bottom line for executive is not changed. but they split out administrative, assistant wages, clerical, and town administrator. There's 37.5 under the line for town administrator now.
And,
You can take mine.
does that have an account number on it?
Where is that?
Yeah, 110, oh, 2110.
Where is it on this?
It's not, it's on this. Okay, the bottom line hasn't changed, so that 171666 is still a good number.
So at the very end
They
of
added
the
the town
list, they have the
administrator.
town administrator.
Okay, so, that's another point that we will come back to in terms of the town administrator.
I'm sorry, and the amount is how much?
You can copy off of mine.
37.
Okay.
37.5. They also, they added in, Kelly said she made a change to the police department phone. They were gonna add phone back in, but I don't see it there. The numbers are still the same, so I have to follow up with her on that.
Why are they adding a phone back in? Oh, they will if they get this other person.
No. It's the phone with the red button on it, the red panic button.
Oh, that one. Oh, sorry, that's a hard-wired phone.
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
And the debate was we really don't need the phone with the red panic button. And I don't know if the button is in every classroom or, one place in the school. Pardon?
I don't believe it is.
I think it's in just in one place, but apparently you can hit the button rather than having to dial 911 if there's ever any kind of, lockdown emergency situation.
I lied.
Pardon?
I think it went into every classroom shortly after we left the district. I think everybody's got it underneath their desk.
Okay.
A panic button, and it rings at the police
It
department?
goes to it dials 911, it goes right directly to the dispatch, and it rings at the police department
Okay.
as well.
I hope it's not in a place where you can accidentally knock it with your knee.
You have to
You have to pay attention
You have
and
to pay attention.
push
Well,
it on purpose.
in the school that I was in, you had to pay attention. So I don't know what.
So, nothing has changed there, but the intent was to add that back in. They've also added in $2,000 for, the Viola's Pool Fest, she said, has replaced the Alstead Festival. Well, they added in $2,000 for that.
Is that the patriotic item?
Yeah. That was,
So the line item for patriotic purposes has gone from 1,000 on the sheet that I passed out with a summary to 3,000. And I will tell you what the total comes to now.
What category is this?
Patriotic
Here it's
purposes.
patriotic, so in the little ones.
Under, what page?
Page 15, so it's gone to 3,000.
Yeah.
And is it renamed? Violet's Festival or something?
Viola's Pool Music Festival.
A music festival.
They put 2,000 into that.
But
So you said hers is on 17.
So they didn't actually take away the,
No, they added
Town
in 3,000.
festivals.
Right. And so I have to confirm this. She was doing this at 3:45 this afternoon. So when you do that, I come up with a bottom line now of, if you want me to write this, I'll say slow, 1584899,
for it, okay.
which is a 2.55% increase, with the town administrator included.
Which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, they-
My concern, yeah, which is pretty impressive.
It's a very impressive. What is it?
Exactly. Well, my concern, and it's not a concern for next year, but it might be after that, is if we get too lean, then we will not be doing our requirement for, monies that we have to put into the fund balance. We won't be able to go over by enough. We won't be able to go under by enough to be able to be putting things, putting money into the fund balance as required. And that is just I'm concerned in the future, it's not a concern
Either
yet.
we won't put money into the fund balance as required, or services will be cut.
Right, well, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's it, right. Roads won't be done and,
We won't get
ambulance might break
sand,
down and, yeah.
after a plow, or
Right. No, it's just,
we'll start skidding. We'll all be in the hospital with hip replacements. There we go.
Right. I think we have a number of fundamental issues from my opinion, to discuss in regard to this, and let me rattle them off before we start talking about them. And if I forget any, type off when I'm done. I think everybody but Les was at the budget hearing last night, so, to me, the concerns that I heard really were the town administrator, the friendly meals, and the PD in terms of more line item type stuff. So that, I want to talk about. I also want to talk about, whether or not we support this budget, in terms of that number, where we're going to go from there, the warrant articles in detail, the fund balance now, and what we think is appropriate in terms of what we should maintain as a fund balance. How far do we feel we should let it go, as far as that goes? And then our relationship with the select board, which has lots of implications. So those are things I'd like to discuss. Is there anything else that anybody wants to throw out there?
well, I think we need to look at DPW, that nothing came up about it. Very little came up about DPW, which is
David was
the biggest part of the budget.
David was the only, hold on a second. David was the only department head who was invited back for round two. So he was well aware of all of these cuts. Okay, and in terms of the line item stuff, there have been a number of meetings when things have been discussed, and to start going through line item by line item right now is going to be tough.
I'm not saying line item by line item. I'm just saying, if we've got concerns on DPW, if we've got thoughts one way or the other, we need to discuss it, because it is a huge part
It's the biggest chunk of the budget.
of the budget.
My concern with DPW personally is on the warrant article side of it. So, more so than on the line item budget. There's a lot of issues. For instance, and Glenn's talked about these. The select board, we are over $125,000, about $125,000 under budget compared to what the select board is in terms of the total package for taxation. And part of that is because we've said we're not going to fund some of the capital reserves, one of which is the transfer station in particular. And I tend to agree with Glenn. Why do you want to fund a transfer station and put money in a capital reserve when you're talking about going to the potential of looking at other alternatives, including a pay-as-you-go type thing? We don't really know what we need, so why stick money away until people do some homework? That's something that needs to be looked at, has been talked about for probably a good 6 months. Glenn keeps talking about a new truck that we may need for DPW. Whether or not it would work for the transfer station, I don't know. But I think, Bob, you were saying about how in New York City they put plows on the garbage trucks, and so multi-purpose, just like we're looking at for a fire truck. And I think we need to be a little bit more creative and hold off putting some money into some of these capital reserves. So that's what I'm thinking of in terms of DPW.
Okay. The transfer station one, they may have already decided they're not going to go pay-as-you-go.
I don't think they've reviewed it in detail, personally, but I don't know that for a
didn't
fact.
say that they hadn't. I'm just saying
All I
they
know
may
is
not be
every
planning
time
to
I go
review
to
it.
the dump, somebody's putting cardboard in garbage, and
Bottles too, you can hear it.
that's more we're paying for dumping garbage, and
Yep.
less income we're
Well,
getting.
that's because the
cardboard.
stuff has to be clean. And if people don't want to wash their cans out or wash their glass out, then they say, oh, I haven't cleaned it, so I throw it in the compactor.
I think at one point Glenn asked
Cardboard? It was clean.
Well,
Trust me on that.
Pizza box, but I think at one point Glenn asked Kelly or Linda to get hold of one of the waste management or one of the other, Casella's the other one, and find out what it would cost to run a facility. Something like that, so rather than us having to worry about all the infrastructure, the trucks and everything else,
And take the drivers away from,
other jobs.
yeah.
I mean, the thing is, what bothers me is that there are a potential number of options, and they need to be explored. And
That's what
the
they do,
concern.
that's what they do in Gilson, is waste management, comes in and provides everything. But,
Somebody has to do a cost analysis.
right, and the other thing is, for how many years, and then it, and starts jacking up also.
Yeah, well, our budget keeps jacking up too, so.
Yeah, the cost to us to haul it away and,
Yes.
all that.
Because it goes the same place probably.
Yeah,
But the other thing is too, people don't want to deal with the cardboard because it's all piled up in front, and no one pushes it back. I mean, you try to throw it back, but some people, they used to get in there with a rake and push it to the back so that a lot of the older people
The
just
last
could get
few
in the
times
front.
I've seen them doing it, they were using like a bulldozer kind of thing to push it back,
Yeah,
which seems quite efficient. It mushes it down, it pushes it back, but they don't do it often enough.
yeah.
But part of it is personnel, There isn't the guy who does the pushing with the machine. He's not always there. He's off doing something else that's important.
Kind of order now, so we're gonna be
Yeah.
there. So okay, so you're concerned about DPW. Did we address that enough, or?
I am saying that we need to look at that. It was not really looked at last night, and it's a huge part of the budget. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
It isn't that I feel that we need to change things particularly, but I wanted it out as a discussion. Was anyone else concerned that so little time was spent on it?
Well, it was surprising to me that we didn't say anything about DPW. There was no discussion of the fire truck.
Yeah, that shocked me. Didn't even come up.
And
I mean, it's huge
we
budget
spent so
items.
much time talking about
Friendliness.
friendliness and how we didn't want to support, some of us didn't want to support those people. But I think what's interesting to me looking at this overview thing is they actually are they're comparing their proposals to the 2015 actuals, not to the 2015.
No, that's me. That's me. This is mine.
I know, but you got it from Joe.
No, I got it off the budget sheet. The other one I got from Joel. This one.
Right, but I think he did the same thing. No, this is the warrant articles one.
Right. This is mine. I put this together.
Yeah, but there's
It's the same thing.
the one that
This one
they
is from
handed out
actuals.
last night.
That should have gotten handed out last night. That got handed out last week.
This was on the table last night at the budget meeting.
Okay.
Was it
Well, I
not?
guess,
Oh, I didn't get that.
Yeah.
Picked up somebody's private copy.
if it was on the table last night, because I shared it with Joel, and Joel shared it with everybody else. Okay. I put this
Okay.
together because I got tired of trying to go, through 7,000 pages.
Okay.
And line by line, it was just a lot easier to me to look at, and I wound up gotten to the point now where I've dated these things. I have a stack of all these budget handouts because I don't dare fill them
Yeah.
out with all the changes.
Well, what's interesting anyway, is that we're comparing the proposed budget to the actuals. So we're not comparing the budget
Okay.
of 2015.
That's easily written in.
Because looking at it, I don't
Many
see
of them-
I don't see any case where what they're proposing is less than what is spent, except for other conservation.
No, but it may be less than, yeah, but I find it's less than what was proposed last year.
Right.
Not less than what was spent.
Right.
I think what they were doing was looking at across across the board, and unfortunately, they're not, fortunately, they're leaving that 15,000 in the, for building maintenance. But, looking at something like that, and if they put in 15,000 in 12 and only spent 800 and took 15,000 in, and then spent 2,000 and put 15,000 in, then those are the ones that they were dropping.
They had dropped that to 10,000, and I fought to get it back
Right.
up.
They can't drop that one. That's ridiculous.
Well, especially if they want to do the door, they put a new fire truck in there, or anybody else's fire truck.
Well,
But
especially
see,
if they need to
how
do.
they cut it so much to the bone, yet it's 2.5% above.
Well, we're adding the expense.
We added an administrator, the
Well, no,
ambulance
that's only
budget
part
went
of
up.
it.
What I'm seeing here is that the DPW road, highway and streets, the actual was 416 and change. The first proposal was 435, and now they're hanging in there at 463.
Hold on to one
Have
thought.
we looked at where,
Hold on to that thought for a minute, please, I'm sorry. The other thing that's going to change here, that's going to make this look really off, is they split out fuel. The line item for fuel last year was one line in one place, and they've now split that out, so that's going to make things look
And
worse.
under executive, under
General
general
government.
government.
And then there was, so that looks substantially lower. And then there was a couple of other things that got changed as well, and I can't think of what they are off the top of my head. Some of
Right,
the
and
insurance
the vast majority of fuel goes to
highway.
DPW. So that's so that would be a huge jump in their budget, but not.
but actually, the general government has only dropped 10,000.
No, it doesn't. General government went from 2015 was 147,359,
No, in the,
and it's down to 125.
on this one, which I think you said was yours,
Yeah, that's,
general government is,
it's now down to
102, 2015
Yeah,
actual.
that was the actual.
They took the fuel out.
Yeah, it was 147,3, no, I'm not communicating right. The budget for last year for general government was 147,359. With the fuel, they spent 102,159. Okay, and then they came in at originally 125,470, and you can see it dropped by 40,000 the next time around on the 8th to 85,470.
And now it's up to 90. So
Right, they added something back in. They added $5,000 in for something. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. Okay, but that $40,000 drop from the 6th to the 8th was for fuel.
And then they
And then
moved
it went
that down
all
to
in.
DPW highway.
Yeah.
So did that, okay, well, that's approximately,
Well, they moved it to every department that uses it. The PD got some.
but most of it was DPW.
Yes.
And that would explain the increase of 50,000, 42,000.
Yeah, the actual was, the 50,000 was in for fuel last year. Of course, fuel was so inexpensive this year, and that's not good.
And they dropped it dramatically because of that, and which is also one of the reasons the welfare budget went down was because of fuel.
And for welfare, I mean, fuel will probably stay down for them, for the winter. I'm not sure about next year, next fall.
Hard to say.
Impossible to say.
And that's part of the problem, that none of us have a crystal ball. So sanitation, I know, had a big jump in it. There were wage adjustments in some of these things, too, which came into play. That was one of the departments that had a lot of wage changes.
I'm sorry, which one?
Sanitation. Just writing all these line items in quick so we can go over them. Like Julie's. I think it was Julie said, why was it only 35 last year?
Yeah, so the DPW is actually down by about 25,000.
Well, we took a lot out of the gravel. We took took 20,000 out of gravel, did we not? So maybe they, because we had gravel up so high, we put gravel up so high,
They took out of that.
And then they didn't grind it from the Vilas
right,
ledge, and then they didn't buy it until leaks or whatever.
there were a bunch of,
Right, so that's
Then
20,
they
that's
have-
24, I guess that comes to.
Okay, so executive is obviously up quite a bit, almost double because of, from the 2015 budget, which is kind of interesting. Town clerk is up about 10%. Election is almost triple, because we have more elections this year. Tax collector is up, and of course we have no control over town clerk, election, tax collector, treasurer. Treasurers,
I don't get that. What
because
is
they're elected.
happening in these elections?
um,
The vote rate goes up so much?
well, no, we do have control over those. We can change that number.
that's true. We don't
And-
have control of
and
what they initially submit.
Right, and it cannot be changed by the selectmen. But the voters on the day can say,
Correct.
why is this being tripled?
Yep.
And we have, this is a year when we've got primaries and state and
President.
national, and, it's gonna be a huge election year, so
It makes sense.
it does
Right.
make sense, it just needs to be watched for next year.
Auditors and assessors was cut almost in half. Legal's down by a third.
But then these auditors and assessors, that's the whole assessment thing, that should be way down, because
It only happens every 5 years.
the big one happens, it happens every year, but the big one happens every 5 years.
Which was this past year.
Right.
Benefits, I wouldn't pay, it's gone up substantially, but again, they're moving things around by line items, so I wouldn't pay attention to that. Planning and zoning is down. General government, again, because of the fuel coming out, and even if you look at it was 147,359 last year, so knock out 40,000 for fuel, that's 107, and it's down to 90,470, so that's down quite a bit. Cemeteries is up slightly. Insurance is up slightly, which is understandable. Regional associations is the same. Police is almost the same as last year. Ambulance was up by $5,000, so by 1/7.
I'm sorry, can we go back to the cemeteries?
Yeah,
What was the 10,000 for this year, actuals?
That's all the mowing that they did, and
But wasn't there a lot of tree work done too?
Yeah.
There was tree
why does
work.
Glenn always say they always write us a
But
check
the tree work
if they
was,
can't touch the trust?
That was a warrant article.
that was a warrant
they
article.
can
But wouldn't
spend
that still be
the
under-
interest on the trust.
Because it's still in there. It
Wouldn't
still
it be
goes
under
under,
cemetery?
it still goes under there, I guess, that's right. No, you're right, that's where it is.
You all set?
I am, thanks.
All right. Ambulance is up, and for some of that is fuel. Fire department's basically flat, even though they threw the fuel in it. Forest fire is down by about $1,400. And emergency management is up down slightly. Communications is up, went from $1 to $1,000. DPW administration is basically flat within $1,000. Highways and streets is up by about $8,000, and fuel was moved into there, so they got cut, even though they went up by $8,000.
They got cut 31,000.
Yeah, street lighting is went up 500. Sanitation is up, and that's wages mostly. Solid waste recycling is up slightly. Health agencies is down by about 2,800, 2,900. Welfare is down from 30,000 to 25,000. Library went up by 5,000, and again, I think they write a check for some of this if they go over too. Parks and Rec is down by 4,000. Patriotic purposes went up all of a sudden with this music fest. Conservation is flat. Debt interest is flat, and then the vehicle lease was 6123. There wasn't anything in the budget for that last year, and because that was a warrant article. I believe that got moved into the PD budget as well. So the PD budget has that in there all now. So there is no medium here. I mean, if people want it to be lean, then I suggest we make a decision that we're okay with this budget. If not, then we need to decide what specifically we need to talk about and when we're gonna talk about it, because there's a lot of things we should be talking about tonight.
Well, I'm still confused as to why this is lean, because it didn't go up the full 3%.
No, because if you think about it, knock off some of the things they added, you know, like the town administrator, and, well, okay, let's do the math. We got 37, bigger table. If we take, I came up with the number 1584899. If I take the town administrator off of that, just the 37.5, oops, that comes down to 1547399, which is barely over last year. Okay, it's almost all the increase, and I didn't even include health insurance or FICA, because I don't know what number to use for that. Okay, probably another, 10
7.5%.
for FICA. What about the health insurance?
I don't know what that
Yeah,
insurance is
so
this year.
so you're talking 10 to 15% probably easily by the time you do FICA and health insurance, I would say, combined.
Could be.
Okay, and so that would say another $4,000 off of it.
So,
There's your increase.
yeah, so that's giving nothing for inflation, and, yeah, so things are,
So anything that's, I think, had money, and we gave people raises, so I think anything that's gone up has been at the expense of a sharp pencil and the fact that fuel is down.
Well, and the town administrator.
Aside from that.
Well, I mean, I think, as we know, we can't force them to spend money on any particular thing, right? So, I'm happy, even though I don't actually like the idea of, well, I think it's unrealistic, the idea of the town administrator, and thinking it's going to solve all our problems. But at this point, I'm thinking, well, we'll leave it in, because at least the money will be in the budget. You know, if I say take it out, if I light it out, then the budget really will be green.
But if we have the town administrator, then where Linda is leaving, then we won't be having her salary.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Linda's going to part-time.
Yeah, hard
right,
time.
those two are just flip-flopping.
I wonder
Yeah.
if we don't, instead of a town administrator, maybe a clerical position that is in effect an administrative assistant to the select board.
That's what Linda is.
Yeah,
Which is
There-
what Linda is.
There's a
She's
third,
been functioning that way anyway.
there's a third position in there. The second line under executive
Right.
is
You've got-
clerical.
You've got Kelly, you've got Linda, and then the town administrator.
Right, so the administrative assistant was Linda, and will
Was
be
Kelly,
Kelly.
now will be, I see, I'm sorry.
And Kelly was clerical, right? So she'll be moving up.
I'm not positive.
Yes, no, you're right, you're right.
I
That's what
just,
Joel said last night.
Yes, that's true, that's right.
I had
Those
a
guys are just gonna be flip-flopping, so that's really neither
So they're
here
close
nor
to
there.
Right.
No, but he also said he was not convinced that having only two people in the office, meaning town administrator and administrative assistant, was sufficient. That's
You
what I
mean
heard
when
him
we,
say.
when,
So
Linda's there.
I think that this clerical spot will in fact continue to be funded. Maybe it'll be Linda at first.
They may have more than one person in there because that's
It's $47,000.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. That's a full year salary. For a clerical person?
send somebody.
Or,
More than that.
I like
that's something else.
yeah, so it's three
Is that both of them?
people in this office.
That's
And
that's two people.
No,
Plus
it'd
the
be
town
a-
administrator is the third.
Yes. No, that line item for the 47,000 plus, that's two people.
Right. They said they were gonna hire another clerical.
Yeah, that's what I heard, that's what I heard, yeah.
Actually, I think it's
Like,
2.5.
Linda's job is about 36. I don't think they're gonna give Kelly that much.
If you multiply 1650 times 32 hours a week, which is roughly what they work, maybe a little under, times 52 weeks a year, that's not even 30 grand, so.
Yeah, so.
So this is
they're
a
gonna
person
put
in
it
the
under the clerical. Matter of fact, remember Kelly spoke up last night, and she said, they really need the extra help, so approve it, so that's what that number is.
This is a person and a half.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
Mark?
so.
Now, just quickly, have we looked at maybe a part-time town administrator where we wouldn't have to get into insurance?
I do not know what they've looked into, to be perfectly honest. That was one of the issues that came up last night in terms of where's the job description, where's the pay range, the whole bit.
I mean, if somebody came in and worked 20, 25 hours, that would take a big chunk of time off.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's also the thing of, we could hire a go-getter recent grad from the program who, wants to make his mark and is all enthusiastic for a lot less than what they're allocating.
Yes. I think trying to wrap this up in terms of the town administrator is do we want to communicate anything to the selectmen about it? Are we in favor of it? Or, do we need to have any thoughts to go back to them, or how do we want to handle this?
What I heard last night was basically what Priscilla just said. They've got that money as a placekeeper, and they're not very serious about hiring someone.
Then why raise the money?
For what Priscilla said, so they have that cushion for the...
Other things they don't have. Well, I'm not sure they're not excited about hiring somebody. I think what they're saying is, we're not going to fill this. If we get 5 applicants and we don't like any of them, we're not going to take one of them. We will wait
Just for the sake of
just for the sake of taking something.
I
I think that's the way I felt.
Yeah, Joel did tell me one other time, and of course this was probably a couple of weeks ago, so things changed, but he did say the 3 of them were committed to going forward with this process.
Yeah, definitely. I think,
I think they're serious about it. And after the way Kelly talked, I mean, obviously there is so much government stuff being handed down more and more
They are serious about it.
that, it's not on-the-job training anymore.
What I was hearing is, yes, there's this horrible need, we're desperate, but if we don't find some ideal candidate, which was not specified what that means, we're not going to hire anybody. The need's not going to... To me, if there's a horrible need for something, you hire the best qualified person who presents themselves, and it's sort of on-the-job guidance. They're not doing enough in this area, or you push them there. They don't work out, they don't work out.
Who would be doing that? Who would be doing that guidance?
Well, hopefully the select board.
The new select board.
Right, the new select board, but also,
There's so much transition happening.
Right.
Linda, we
Who is
possibly to,
running for select board?
we don't know. So there's so much transition, I don't think anyone can predict what's going to happen, or how this money is going to
my
happen.
feeling-
a lot of flux.
right, but my feeling with the town administrator is we're a small town, and I don't think it needs to be a full-time position. I think we should start with a part-time town administrator. I just see, Keene needing a full-time one. I see Claremont needing a full-time one. I'm not sure Alstead needs a full-time one.
Let's
So
wrap
that's
up
my
this.
feeling.
Okay, my feeling is you pay part-time wages, you get a recent grad, and it's on-the-job training. You don't get lots
We
of
all have
feedback,
opinions
you're not
about
doing
this.
enough.
So, but you asked-
We want to make a stand as a committee in terms of letting the select board know we have an opinion on this. Or, do we want to just let it ride and see what happens at the budget hearing?
Well, that's what I was just throwing out. I'm telling the group, I think rather than putting it as a full-time position, my feeling is that should be a part-time position.
And I heard your feeling.
Oh,
What
okay.
I'm looking for is do we want to do something
A
as a...
consensus.
Yeah.
Okay.
I heard your opinion. I want to hear it as a group. And if that's the case, then I need to hear a motion or something, or somebody saying, yes, I think as a group we should do X, Y, or Z.
I don't think we should do
I
that.
think what we ought to do is basically make if I have to make a motion, I will, but in regards to supporting this, and we've got a quorum here and everything else, people have their own opinions. But what we have to look at is the overall for the town. And I think some of us are getting a little bit emotional because of yourselves, not town. I'm not picking on anybody by that statement. But I think as a committee, what we need to do now is to vote to see whether we're going to support an administrator or we're not going to vote, not support the town administrator. Easy, simple, I will make the motion.
Now, hold on before you make the motion, because Priscilla said something and didn't get to finish it when you.
I'm sorry.
That's my fault, so go ahead.
Well, I don't want to reduce the budget, so I don't want to.
You don't want to change that line item, you just don't want to hire anybody. You want to keep them.
Well, I don't mind,
Keep it as a placekeeper.
yeah.
Who knows what, I mean, who knows what, talk about a, crystal
Yeah.
ball, who knows
I
what
think
the
we should
economy's
put
gonna
the
do.
placekeeper in gravel. No one knows if we bought that gravel, but everyone will know if we didn't hire the administrator.
Sure. All right, Les, do you want to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion that this committee, by show of hands, there'll be two motions, I think. No, I'm sorry, there'll be one. That by a show of hands, we will either decide to go with the backing for the town administrator, or if the votes are opposed to it, we stay opposed. We're a group, we're a committee, and we need to
That's
stay solid.
confusing.
You're,
I'm not sure what you're trying to say.
right, a motion needs to be one way or the other.
So you
Okay,
can
well, I make
propose
a motion, then keep it simple, I'll make a motion that a vote is taken tonight to support the town administrator, the proposal of the idea of it.
Do we want to leave it that vague, or do we want to specify that we want them to, have a job description and a pay range or anything else?
I could add that into that motion, I'd be very happy to come up before we get.
I think first, either we support the concept of an administrator
That's
or
fine.
not, and after that, we can vote.
I think you're right, so.
If we all support it, then we can vote that we want to see
Anybody want to second his motion?
details.
Your second motion.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Of the town administrator.
That's what he said. You want to repeat what you said, or you?
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
All those opposed? Abstain? Okay, all right, so that passed, okay. All right,
Well, but wait, that was just the first one,
yes,
and,
do you want to make a motion to add on to that then?
well, that's, yeah, I make a motion that there is that prior to hiring this person, there is a job description and a salary,
Range.
not range, a salary,
Well, based on experience, you'd want to
You
pay
have
them
a
more or
range.
less.
well, it's a range, but that's not what I
Do
want.
you want it to be prior to hiring or prior to the deliberative session? Don't you want to know what you're voting for? At the deliberative session?
I want them to, I don't want them just hiring, I don't want them just hiring somebody without a job description.
Right,
They
but
sit
that's
there
my-
and twiddle their
But that's
thumbs.
my point. Don't you want them to have a job description and a pay range before we vote to have a town administrator, so we know what we're voting for?
That's what I was just saying. That's what I was just
You
saying.
said before they were hired, though.
Okay.
That's what I was.
Before, sorry, I see what you're saying. Yeah, before the,
Because this is, you may have come in after this, because you came in late last night. This was the point that somebody made last night, was the fact that, well, what's this person going to do? What's the need? And so, where's the job description? Where's the pay range? And there wasn't. So,
Right.
yeah. I thought that was a good point.
right, before the advertisement goes out for this person, we need to have a a job description and a pay.
Right, but my point is, do you want to wait until after the budget has been voted on, or do you want that information developed before?
I want this information being given to the selectmen if they're considering this person.
They think they have a job description, which is the job description from
Oh,
Lime.
from Lineborough, they're just, that's right, they're just sort of sliding that over, aren't they?
It'll be easy enough, if I may just jump in, but it'll be easy enough to get several.
Right, yeah, I think you're,
phone calls.
I think you're missing my point, okay? And maybe I'm just not doing a good job communicating. Obviously, before you hire someone, you've got to have a job. You should, if you're doing your job, have a job description and the salary scale for that, so. But the point that people were making last night was, that's all well and good, but we'd like to know what that is before we vote on it to say, yes, we agree with you that this is a good idea to go forward. Okay, and so that's what I'm asking you,
Oh,
to
no,
follow.
no, that isn't what no, they've given us this. I just wanted to, I don't want them just to throw out the idea of them. I don't want them to put out an ad for this
They're not.
person.
And the other question is it going to be a search committee too? That's come up, so,
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah. So I don't think we need to tell them that. I think they're well aware of that.
We can't change these items, actually, can we? When they put in the final budget, we vote on this whole thing.
The number can be changed at the delivery
The
station.
number can be, right, okay.
So we would have to, like we did last year, we'd have to lower the entire amount and then suggest how it would be lowered
Or raised.
or raised.
And that was my next, are we done with town administrator? Okay, that was my next question. We've talked about, we've talked about it being where it's at. You said you don't want to go any lower. Does anybody else have any strong feelings? Are we okay with this number in terms of where things are at, or do we feel it should be higher or lower?
Well, for this year, until we get to the warrant articles, I can't particularly give you that answer.
That's fine, we can come back to it. All right, two other things I want to mention briefly. The police department number is liable to change because Marcello was asking for $4,000 put back in. And again, the phone issue, so keep that in mind. I have mixed feelings on that. I was involved with when they was with the meeting, and I don't know if you were or not at that one. When they cut his budget, I think there is more than enough room until they hire a second officer. In that budget as far as that goes with what they pay. So, then the other item was friendly meals. In terms of that's been broken out. And aside from whether you support friendly meals or not, they've started to trend in terms of the town is definitely supporting nonprofit a nonprofit organization. Well, there's another nonprofit organization that the town is supporting too, whose office is right over here. I mean, if we're giving them office space, does that count too? The Historical Society?
The Historical Society?
Yeah, they use part of this building. They're a nonprofit.
But they're part of the town.
Are they?
Yes, they aren't a private charity.
Sure they are, they're a nonprofit.
I remember voting the Historical Society in a long time ago.
But they're not in the
There's something
budget.
I don't think that's a
They have,
non-private and separate. I mean, they're doing town business.
I don't think I'd call it town business. Most towns, the Historical Society is a separate entity. I mean, if you make a donation to the Historical Society, you get a thank you note from the Historical Society, not from the town. They may not be a registered 501 or 503, although I think they are, because of the grants and things like that. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm just, somebody mentioned it to me, and it's, they're right. They are using town facilities as well.
Who owns the building on the hill? Is that town? The historical building?
I believe that's the Historical Society.
Yeah, the one right in the B?
Yeah.
Who owns that?
I'm not
I don't
sure.
know.
I think it's the Historical Society. I don't know. Maybe that's what we voted on, something a long time ago.
So, couldn't we pay for the,
We paid for the roof fix, being fixed.
yeah, yeah,
So maybe it's a town building.
Yeah, we just did last summer.
right.
So, we're starting a trend if that happens with friendly meals. And I think that's something that needs to be on the radar. I don't think that we're gonna solve it tonight, but
Anybody want to start a nonprofit? Take advantage of town space?
Closets are getting smaller.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
okay.
another sign on the,
I think that brings us down to the warrant articles at this point. Any other discussion on the budget at this point? So, is it safe to say that nobody has strong feelings one way or the other way about it going up a whole lot or being too low? All right, let's go to the warrant articles.
Can I just ask one question on that, if I may? Does that mean that if you go along with with the selectmen's recommended budget number, does that mean that you're also going to go along with how they're distributing the funds? By line item, or is it just where you pass the line item stuff and?
May I just point out something I said last year? That budgets are a work of fiction. Just because it's budgeted doesn't mean it's going to be spent. And just because it's budgeted doesn't mean you're going to go over.
I've heard too many times that, when we cut, well, if we need something, we'll just take it from someplace else.
Well, they're doing that, and you don't run a business that way, but
Right.
I mean.
And they legally can do that, according to, New Hampshire RSA. My feeling is that we have, today's the 13th, 20th, 27th, potentially three meetings before the deliberative session. Anybody who's on a subcommittee, if they have concerns over how these things have been cut, needs to sit down with their subcommittee and go through them line item by line item. This is something that should have been done a long time ago.
Do we have a definitive proposed budget yet? Because it's no point in doing the work unless you've got a definitive proposed budget.
From what I understand, what you've got tonight is pretty close. And again, there's just a few areas based on last night that are open for debate, as far as I know.
Okay.
So that's that. Okay, we pass. And I think there'll be extras before you run any more off.
I know how to run the machine now. I can't figure out whether it's Staples or not.
I don't think that one does.
Okay.
Well, the staples aren't in it.
I do believe that we agreed last week to go forward with our numbers on the right-hand half of the page. I'm still confused. As to
Thank you.
how many of the selectmen have gone over this and have discussed it. I don't know the answer to that.
We don't know that they looked at it.
They claim they have, yet Joel keeps nodding his head every time I ask if these are Joel's proposals, to make sure that I am giving credit where it appropriately goes, and that yes, they are his proposals.
And Chris mostly said that they were, they were sort of going along with it, but Chris,
He said we didn't have a lot of input, we didn't have a lot to say, right, something like that.
You did say they could cut a couple out. One, the most common one was the one about the budget committee. Although I don't think anybody here is arguing about that, so becoming statutory rather than